Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm giving my picks and predictions for the 2021 Oscars. So the Oscars are finally happening in a little over 2 weeks, so I wanted to give my picks for what should win each category and my prediction for what actually will. This is probably obvious, but just in case you don't know, this is for the 2020 films. Nothing that's come out this year yet will count toward these Oscars. Even though they're a little bit later than normal, it's just because it was delayed. It's still only for the 2020 movies. Now, some movies that didn't get their theatrical release until this year will still count because movies like The Father were in film festivals last year, and so they count toward the 2020 movie cycle according to the Oscars at least. But regardless, I'm going to be giving all the nominees before I give my pick and prediction and all that anyway, so you know the options. I don't know what order they normally go in, so I'm just going by alphabetical because that's how it's listed on their website anyway. So first up we have actor in a leading role, and the nominees for that are Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Gary Oldman for Mank, and Steven Yeun for Minari. And I think the obvious choice should be Anthony Hopkins for The Father. He was absolutely phenomenal in that. None of these other performances come anywhere close to that level of acting. Like I said in my review for The Father, I thought it might be Anthony Hopkins' best performance ever, and he's obviously the best and most talented and most storied actor on this list, so it being possibly his best performance is obviously better than any of these guys. As for who will win, I think there is a strong chance that he could win. If I had a second choice, I think that maybe Chadwick Boseman might win. I don't think that he should, but I understand why he would. Not saying that he's getting necessarily a sympathy vote, but the fact that he died, that does give people a higher chance of voting for him and a higher chance of picking him. So I think there is a strong possibility he could win, but if it was up to me, I would definitely say Anthony Hopkins. Next up is actor in a supporting role, and the nominees for that are Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of the Chicago 7, Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah, Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami, Paul Raci for Sound of Metal, and Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah. Now, there's already been some controversy surrounding this already because Lakeith Stanfield is the main character in Judas and the Black Messiah, and if he's not, then Daniel Kaluuya is. One of them's the main character. They're not both supporting actors. I would definitely say Lakeith Stanfield is the main character there. As for my pick, I would go with one of them. I think both of them were good. I'm leaning more towards Daniel Kaluuya, and I think he probably also has the better chance of winning the actual vote too. But I think this one is a lot more wide open than the main actor category. I think that it could go, honestly, to pretty much any of them. I did mention in my first thoughts of Sound of Metal that Paul Raci was actually easily the best actor in that movie, and he actually got nominated. So I think he did really well. I think the outlier here is Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of the Chicago 7. I don't think he deserved to be nominated, but regardless, he was. I really don't see him winning, but any of them could win, but if I had to pick, I would say Daniel Kaluuya. I think he will win, and I think he would deserve to win. Next up is actress in a leading role, and the nominees are Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. Now, if I was to pick somebody, I would probably go with Vanessa Kirby from Pieces of a Woman, even though I didn't end up liking that movie so much. I thought the acting was phenomenal. I would have also had Shia LaBeouf nominated for a Best Supporting Actor, but like I said, that competition, there was a lot of competition there. That was a much stiffer competition. So anyway, I would definitely pick Vanessa Kirby for the Best Actress in a Leading Role. I don't know that she'll actually win, though. I think the more Oscar pick is Frances McDormand. She is very popular among the Oscar critics, the people picking who wins the Oscars. I've never loved her. I've never understood why people think she's as great as they do, but I think probably she will win. I think that Viola Davis has a strong chance of winning for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom as well, but I think I think Frances McDormand will probably win that. Next up is actresses in a supporting role, and the nominees are Maria Bakalova for Borat 2, Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman for The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Yoo Jung-yoon, I think, for Minari. And I would definitely pick Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy. Like I mentioned in my review for that, I thought she was phenomenal. I thought she stole the show, even away from Amy Adams, who is another fantastic actress and delivered a really good performance in that, and probably also should have been nominated for something somewhere, whether it was main or supporting. I don't know what you qualify that role as. Probably supporting, but she should have been nominated for something, and she was phenomenal, and Glenn Close still outshined her easily in that performance. So I think she should win. Olivia Colman was also really good in The Father, but I don't think there's much of a competition here. I think she probably will win the Oscar as well. I think we will agree on that. I don't really see Maria Bakalova winning, because comedies, they just don't frequently win best actors and actresses, and I mean, I'm surprised she got nominated. I thought she was fine, but I really doubt that she's gonna win. And then Amanda Seyfried as well for Mank, that was not Oscar worthy remotely. I was also shocked that she got nominated for that. I mean, she wasn't bad, but I mean, she certainly wasn't good. Next up is animated feature films, and we've got Onward by Pixar, Over the Moon, a Shaun of the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, Soul, also by Pixar, and Wolf Walkers. And I don't know, but I think this might be the first time that we've had two Pixar nominations in the same year. But anyway, animated feature film is never much of a competition. It's always the Disney or the Pixar movie that's gonna win, except for the occasional outlier where it's, like Shrek 1 or something like that. But in this case, I don't think the competition is much of a competition. I'm pretty sure Soul is going to win in a landslide. And even being somebody who didn't love Soul as much as everybody else seemed to, I still think it deserves to. So I both pick it for myself and predict that it's going to win. Like I said, I don't really think that's much of a competition. Next up is cinematography, and the nominees are Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. The cinematography didn't really stick out to me in any of these. I think Nomadland probably had the most artsy feel to the cinematography, but it wasn't anything that really took my breath away. And then Mank, they did the whole black and white thing, which is pandering toward the Oscar crowd, trying to get an Oscar vote. So I think that there's a possibility that that could win cinematography, but I still think that Nomadland is probably going to win, and I, between these options, would pick Nomadland to win as well. I didn't think this list has anything in particular that really has great cinematography, and I'm not thinking of any other movies that deserve it more than them. I mean, you could probably bring up Tenet. Had pretty decent cinematography, but none. There wasn't anything really wowing last year as far as cinematography goes. So, yeah, I'll just go with Nomadland. Next up is directing, and the nominees are Another Round, which I don't know what that is. I didn't see it. Hold on. What is Another Round? Well, I mean, it's got a decent rating. I'm surprised I didn't hear about it if it's got a good rating and was nominated for Best Director and all that, but I mean, I don't know. Definitely haven't heard any groundswell for it, so I doubt it's gonna win anything. But anyway, which was directed by Thomas Vinterberg, Mank, which was directed by David Fincher, Minari, which was directed by Lee Isaac Chung, Nomadland, which was directed by Chloe Zhao, and Promising Young Woman, which was directed by Emerald Fennell. Now, for my pick, I would definitely go with none of these. Actually, I was expecting to see The Father up here, which it's not. And so if I'm going to pick a movie that's not nominated already, then I wouldn't even pick The Father. I'd pick I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I would pick Charlie Kaufman for Best Director, because the directing in that was better than any of these. I don't understand the Oscars. They're too political. They really are, because I know Charlie Kaufman talked negatively about the Oscars, and now he's never going to be nominated for anything again. Nolan still hasn't been nominated for Best Director, I don't think. Not that Tenet was his best directing output or anything, but it's weird because, like, didn't Alfred Hitchcock not ever win a Best Directing Oscar or something? Yeah, no, Alfred Hitchcock never won Best Director, so that tells you all you need to know about the Oscars' history with Best Director. They don't know what they're talking about. So yeah, I would take Charlie Kaufman, but as far as who I think will actually win, if David Fincher wins for Mank, that is a crime against humanity. That was a horribly directed movie. If Promising Young Woman wins, that's also just ridiculous. At this point, I would probably go with Chloe Zhao for Nomadland winning, but it doesn't deserve it. None of these deserve it, if I'm being honest. And that's what I do, is I be honest. I give my opinion. And none of these deserve it at all. The film editing nominees are The Father, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. And for my pick, I would go with Sound of Metal. I thought the editing was pretty well done in that. The most of it is the sound editing. But as far as the film editing goes, I thought that it probably, at least of these, had the best editing. I think The Father also had pretty good editing because they had to do some tricky stuff. I almost gave away some spoilers, but they had to do some interesting stuff with the editing. So that would be my second pick, but as far as what I would pick, I would go with Sound of Metal, and I think that would probably also win, because, I mean, Nomadland didn't do anything, Promising Young Woman didn't do anything, The Trial of the Chicago 7 didn't do anything. They were just standard, straightforward editing. There wasn't anything unique or special about any of those. So I would think that the Oscar would go to Sound of Metal, but I could see it going to The Father. But I'm pretty sure it's going to go to Sound of Metal. Alright, I'm going to skip down to original score. So the nominees are Da 5 Bloods, Mank, Minari, News of the World, and Soul. And I think, to me, I would actually take Soul. I thought that soundtrack stood out the most to me. But as far as the Oscar prediction, I wouldn't be surprised if Da 5 Bloods won, or Mank for that matter, that had a very old school feel type soundtrack. But I don't know. I'm personally just gonna stick with Soul on that one. And then original song, you've got Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah, Hear My Voice from The Trial of the Chicago 7, Huzavik from Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. I have no idea what that is. EOC from The Life Ahead. Also don't know what that is. Speak Now from One Night in Miami. For me, I would go with either Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah or Hear My Voice from The Trial of the Chicago 7. I think that's what I would pick, and I think the Oscars are probably along the same line. I think they might also throw in Speak Now from One Night in Miami, but I'm not sure. I would probably, if I had to guess, I would guess that they would go with Hear My Voice from The Trial of the Chicago 7, but that's a bit of a shot in the dark for me. Now we are to Best Picture, and the nominees are The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, we've got a few here that do not belong, frankly. Nomadland, Mank, Promising Young Woman, and Sound of Metal do not belong here. Mank was a mediocre film. Nomadland was mediocre. Promising Young Woman was mediocre, bordering on bad, and Sound of Metal was only pretty good. Anybody who saw my first thoughts on The Father knows that Up and Away is my pick, because not only was that like the best movie of the year, it was best movie of the past 5, maybe 10 years. That movie is phenomenal. I also did like Judas and the Black Messiah and The Trial of the Chicago 7 a lot. I still don't think they really can compete, but I wouldn't be wholly disappointed if either of them won. But I think the obvious pick for me is The Father, and I think for the Oscars, I think there is a strong chance that could win. I don't know why, but I have a deep-seated fear that Promising Young Woman is somehow going to win, or Nomadland, and neither of them should. If either was to win, I think Nomadland probably has the better chance, but I still, that should not win. It just shouldn't. Okay, I'm going to skip a couple more and go down to Sound, and the nominees are Greyhound, Mank, News of the World, Soul, and Sound of Metal. And this is obvious to me, at least. Sound of Metal should win. I picked them as my pick and as my prediction. I can't see any of these other ones competing at all. I mean, the sound was what made Sound of Metal a contestant at all. If the sound mixing and sound editing wasn't as good as it was, then Sound of Metal wouldn't have been nominated for any of these Oscars. The sound is what made that movie. So if it was to win any Oscar, that's the Oscar that it should win, and I think that's the Oscar that it will win. Next up is writing for an adapted screenplay, and the nominees are Borat 2, which isn't an adaptation, it's a sequel. It wasn't adapted from anything. The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and The White Tiger. Now, I would once again have to go with The Father here. I thought that movie was just all around ingenious, and the writing was a big part of that, so I have to go with The Father. As far as my prediction, I think there's a good chance that it will actually also win. Borat 2, there's no way that's going to win. I don't know why it got nominated. It's barely written. I mean, most of the movie is just ad-libbed. But anyway, there's a chance that One Night in Miami or Nomadland could win. But I think, honestly, that the Oscar will end up going to the Father, which, like I said, I believe is the right choice. And next up, which is actually the last category, is Writing Original Screenplay. And the nominees are Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now... Promising Young Woman, we can just throw that out. Sound of Metal, not particularly well written either. I think for me, this is between Judas and the Black Messiah and Minari. I mean, the Trial of the Chicago 7 was a good movie, but it wasn't particularly written well. It wasn't poorly written. It was just, fine. The script wasn't the thing that wowed me about that movie, though. It was more the acting and the directing and stuff like that. I didn't think the writing was anything that out of the ordinary. And honestly, I would say the same for Judas and the Black Messiah and Minari. I would put them both above The Trial of the Chicago 7, but not by a lot. Normally, when it comes to best screenplays, you're talking about a different breed of writing, and none of these really fit that expectation that I have. Now, keep in mind, all of these Oscars, it's a lower bar than most years because so few movies got released last year. And I get that. That's why I'm not complaining too much. But I think my pick would be Judas and the Black Messiah. I think there's a strong chance, though, that Minari is going to win. So I would go with Judas and the Black Messiah, but my prediction is officially Minari. So there you have it. Those are my picks and predictions. What do you guys think? What do you think should win, and what do you think actually will? Let me know in the comments below, and of course, don't forget to come back and check back after the Oscars and see how correct I was and how correct you guys are. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.